Americans across the country, as you know, are feeling the pain at the pump.
But many are also struggling to afford the vehicle at the end of it. Experts warn that the market bubble for used cars might explode in the coming months. Wholesale prices for used cars reportedly increased 44% in November 2021 compared to 1 year before. The KPMG firm claims decades of data from prior years, quote, show nothing compared to this unprecedented spike.
So joining us now is Lisa Beilfuss Popeo. She's a senior writer for Barron's. Lisa, welcome. You wrote an article about the alarming rise of car repossessions that was published just last week. So what is driving the explosion of these car repossessions?
Thanks so much for having me. So my reporting suggests, a few dynamics are kind of clashing, colliding all at the same time. You've got used car prices, as you mentioned, they've skyrocketed since the beginning of the pandemic. That's in part because the price of new cars has gone up a lot, but the supply of new cars hasn't been able to meet demand because of a chip shortage and other shortages that have come up since the beginning of the pandemic. So you've got used car prices skyrocketing and people having to borrow more and more in order to actually get their hands on a car. At the same time, you had a lot of people over the past 2 years, because of some of the pandemic aid programs, they had heightened income. And so because of, say, stimulus checks and debt forbearance, they had temporary pops of income. And banks, according to my reporting, weren't really doing income verifications the way that they have in the past. So you've got people borrowing more. There's a metric in the industry called loan to value, LTV. And I've heard that some of those were as high as 140%, meaning people are really underwater at a time when inflation is, people's incomes on an inflation adjusted basis are falling. People are having a harder time paying for basics like food and energy, and things like car payments are getting harder and harder to pay.
So is that really sort of the dynamic at play here? This is related to the used car bubble that experts fear is close to popping.
So some experts I've spoken to have been worried about a used car bubble now for a couple of years. But then, the pandemic programs I mentioned, some of those helped people during the past 2 years. So the bottom didn't fall out. But now people are saying it looks like this could be the time when things are starting to happen. And one red flag is that the rate of repossessions for prime borrowers is starting to rise. So it's not just subprime borrowers who are having a harder time, because those are typically lower income consumers. But now what I've heard is that the rate of repos for prime borrowers with better credit has doubled to about 4% over the past 2 years.
And Lisa, what do people think is behind that? What's affecting those prime borrowers? Why are they not able to make their car payments?
So a couple of things there. One idea is that some people's incomes looked better when they applied for their loans because they were, say, getting stimulus checks, maybe unemployment benefits. They were able to have some of their debts temporarily forgiven during the pandemic. And so they looked maybe like better consumers, better borrowers at the time. And another, reason is that economy-wide, things are starting to weaken. We're seeing a tick upward in layoffs. There's a weekly report that comes out today. We saw a tick up in layoffs. And, yesterday's consumer price index showed that we have another 40-year high in consumer price inflation. People are getting hit with higher prices. The economy is starting to weaken, and it's just getting tougher out there for a wider swath of consumers.
It's interesting. I wonder if people got a little over-enthusiastic. They had a lot of savings after the pandemic, but then at the same time, they decided they wanted to spend like crazy when things kind of got back to normal on travel, maybe fancier cars than they could afford. Maybe all of a sudden, there was a lot of spending that happened.
They were ready to spend.
Right?
And, and I wonder, with that in mind, Lisa, I mean, you mentioned the chip shortage, for instance, earlier. What do you think actually needs to happen then to get things to a state of normalcy in the auto industry? And how long do you think that's going to take?
Yeah, I think those are great points about spending and a great question about how and when we return to normal. As we know, the Federal Reserve started raising interest rates earlier this year for the first time in a long time, started to undo some of the pandemic stimulus. Now the Fed more recently has gotten a lot more aggressive and is expected to stay so, especially after yesterday's CPI report showing prices are up across the economy at 9%, more than 9% from a year ago. So I think that the rapid rise in interest rates is affecting things like car loans, people having to pay more interest on their loans. That should cool demand. At the same time, we've got lingering supply issues that it's unclear when some of those will resolve. One bright spot is anecdotal, but one thing I have heard in the course of my reporting is that the chip shortage is not nearly as bad as it was, say at the beginning of the year. I've done some calling around just to kind of see, I called dealers last week before I wrote my story. And it's a mixed bag as far as I can tell, maybe not as bad as it was, but it's not over. So I think that there's progress. Demand is cooling, it's a double-edged sword. It should lower prices for certain things, including cars. At the same time, it's getting harder for people to pay for things.
It's such a constellation of factors, really also critical to our economy. Well, Lisa Beilfuss Popeo, thank you so much for sharing your insight with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.